in the 1980s, 70s, and 80s, Sonia and I were living in Fort Worth, Texas. I was an engineer at Bell Helicopter. And when I retired, we decided to come to New Mexico, maybe move to New Mexico, because it's a beautiful area. So in 1991, we decided to take a trip and just look around. Before we left on the trip, 3 of our friends said, "Look at Abiquiu." And at that time, we'd never heard of Abiquiu. So we started our trip and went to Santa Fe first, talked to a realtor and asked him if he knew of any house for sale in Abiquiu. And he said yes, and he gave me directions of how to get there. And then we asked him, well, is there a realtor in Abiquiu we can talk to? And so then he said, well, look for a sign, Adi Shakti Realty. And so the realtor there was part of the Sikh community in Santa Fe. So we came up to Abiquiu to look at the house that he recommended, and he told us his directions to come up the road that we're on right now and look at the house just across the road from where I'm living now. And that was a surprise, but we didn't know why we were right up here on top of this mesa. And so I noticed the white place out there, never seen it before. And anyway, we looked at that house and decided not to go any further with that. And I wanted to drive to the end of the road to take pictures of the white place, the Plaza Blanca. So as we drove up the road a little further, we saw the sign, Adi Shakti Realty, by the big house, the last house on the mesa. And so Sonia went to the house and I went to the end of the road to take pictures. So she knocked on the door, and the people living there invited her to come in and look around. And as she was looking and pondering it, she told them, I think I would like to buy this, but I'll have to think about it a little bit. And they said, well, there's another person coming back in 2 weeks who's interested in buying it. So that night, she and I pondered about this. Why were we directed to come right up here and find the house and find the sign? And didn't know exactly what the future would bring sometimes. And so that night we pondered it a bit and thought, yeah, we'd like to buy the house. It's such a beautiful area. I think this would work. So the next day we came and talked to the people and gave them a down payment. So we looked back at this and figured out this was an experience of the human condition sometimes. You're led to the right people at the right time to go to the right place for the next stage in your human journey. And we loved the territory so much that we bought some land just across the road from us, just about 2.5 acres along the road. And then we were so taken away by the beauty of the larger piece of land overlooking the white place that we thought, well, we'd like to buy that also and preserve it so it never gets built on, because it's such a beautiful place. And so we talked to the owners, that was Dar al-Islam community down below this mesa. they owned about 1,700 acres right here, and owned 17 acres on top of the mesa here. As far as I know, they weren't planning to sell it, but we gave them the opportunity to make a little bit more money, and they agreed that they would like to sell it. And so we went through that process. Before we came here, we had become aware of Native American tribes and things, and the history of the Native Americans that occupied this territory, and how their intention was to preserve the land, which supported our concept of that too. And we found out that this land right up here, Native Americans had lived on the land. There are gardens, ancient gardens on the land, and so their intention was to preserve the land, and we thought, well, maybe we can preserve it to the best of our ability. We established a trust and decided to put that land into the trust, and in the trust, there are certain covenants that we developed, and the primary covenants for this particular land, this plot of ground, was to preserve it, no buildings for residents, a residential building, limited passage with motor vehicles, and just doing what we can to preserve the land as a sacred area and to be used for camping and conferences and gatherings of people, with that intention of tuning into the land, preserving the land, honoring Mother Earth and all her relations.